In this video, we're going to show you how to install a brake caliper on your Ford Taurus located behind your front wheels. Using a 19mm socket, we're going to go loosen and remove our lug nuts. With the lug nuts removed, grab your wheel, remove it, and set it aside. Now what we like to do is have our wheel pointed outward so we can go ahead and access our caliper unit. I'm going to go ahead and start with a small pry bar. You can use a screwdriver if you want, a flathead screwdriver. And you're going to go into the face here of the caliper itself and go behind the outboard pad. Now this has a spring retention on it. You get behind it. And if you pry inward, you're going to go ahead and push in on the pistons on the caliper itself. And all this is going to do is this is going to allow you to go ahead and remove your caliper without those brake pads binding. Now once you do that on the top and bottom and you have a little bit of space there, go ahead and use a 17mm socket to go ahead and loosen and remove these slide pin bolts. Now the next component we're going to introduce here is our hook. We're going to use this for a caliper hook here. And when we remove this, what we're going to do is we're going to put the hook through the upper eyelet here, and then the upper hook is going to go onto our strut spring up top. That's going to hold us up and out of the way for us. Now when we remove this here, the springs on the top and bottom of our brake pads, they might pop off or the pads might shoot out. So be prepared when you remove this here. Go ahead and hook this and get it out of the way. Let's go ahead and remove our brake pads. Remember, we have our spring clips down below. Set those aside and then slide out your brake pads. Next, we want to go ahead and remove our brake caliper bracket. On the back side, you're going to see these two bolts. These are 18mm. We want to go ahead and use our breaker bar and our socket to go ahead and loosen these. Go. Now you can use your impact gun if you want. The breaker bar is just a little bit smoother and less noisy. You can switch over to your ratchet if you want to. You can try spinning this out by hand like we're doing. Now one thing you want to pay attention to, our brake rotor has a screw going through the front of the rotor holding it to our wheel hub. If your rotor does not have that on the face of it, you want to go ahead and just pay attention to that there, because once you remove this here, the rotor will be free and you don't want that to fall off on your foot. Remove that bolt and remove that caliper bracket. Now let's go ahead and prep our new brake caliper. We'll go ahead and remove our bolts here. These are the slide pins and these are 17mm. Now you can go ahead and start by simply sliding this off, but you want to go ahead and pop the boots off. And slide this off. We'll go ahead and remove our slide pins. All right, I'm going to go ahead and set the caliper side over there. Now we want to focus on our slide pins here. Now when we remove these, there's a minimal amount of grease on here, and that's all good. However, we want to add a little bit more to this for longevity. So simply go ahead and grab your boot, and we're going to gently peel this away, like so. I'm going to do that to both sides. I'm going to grab some of our silicone paste. I'm going to put a little bit on the inside here, and same on the other side. Now we don't want to fill this. We just want to get a little bit extra in there. And then grab your slide pins, and we want to put a thin coat on the entire pin. So put some on there and just smear that thin coat on that entire pin. Set that aside, and we're going to do the same for this one here. And go ahead and install our boot. Now, even though it looks like it's in there, you want to go ahead and push in and spin this. You're actually going to feel it seat, and it's going to spin freely. Go ahead and take your slide pin that we thinly coated in grease and push that in. You're going to be pulling back on the boot here and work this in. And then work the boot up onto the collar, like so, and just work that in. Just open that up a little bit. There we go. I'm just using a pocket screwdriver here. You want to carefully just kind of, if you need to vent it, you can do that. Seat it. Let's go ahead and do the same over here. Line this up. Pop it in, and it's going to feel kind of sticky. It's going to kind of bind up a little bit. Go ahead and spin it, and you're going to feel it pop in and seat. And do the same here. You want to be careful not to tear these boots. But if you get under there just right, you can go ahead and vent the air out and then work that boot up onto it. Like so. Spins nice and freely. Now I want to go ahead and install our sliders here. We're going to flip this up. I'm going to take a little bit of our silicone paste. And we want to put it inside here and on the side and a little bit here. Now you're going to make sure this is a thin coat, so go ahead and use your glove and just smear that around. You're going to go take your slider here, line that up, push that down. Go ahead and flip this over. Repeat over here. Push this down. Now the key thing here is that you do not want grease inside the sliders here where the pads are going to go. If you do, that's where dirt and everything is going to collect, and it's going to cause the brake pads not to slide smoothly. You want that to be a clean area. That's ready for installation. Go ahead and take your new bracket. And you can start either bolt, the top one or the bottom one. I like to run these in as far as I can by hand. Now I am going to use my breaker bar just to snug these. We do have to torque these after. You can use your ratchet if you want. I'm going to go ahead and take our brake pads and line these up and get these installed. Now if you're doing the brake caliper, now's the prime time to go ahead and do your brake pads as well. I'm going to go ahead and take our caliper unit itself and go ahead and line this up. Go ahead and get your upper bolt started. Now installing this here, the slide pin itself has two flat sides on it that will actually fit into the notch here. So if I remove this, there's a square section right here on our caliper where this will fit into. So you want to go ahead and you notice that it won't line up. You can't get that bolt lined up. So you're going to go ahead and rotate that. And you can actually see that it actually fits right into this little notch. And go ahead and get that lower one started as well. Once you have those started, you can go ahead and gently snug those down. Now when installing the springs for your brake pads, you want to pay attention to the position here of how it's going to go because of all the bends that are in it. Now the ends actually go into little dimples on our brake pads themselves. So if you look on the outside, there's going to be a little bump sticking out. That is where the dimples are going to be on the inside. So we're going to feed this in. And if you use your drop light or whatever, you can actually look right inside the end over here. Then you're going to take your needle nose pliers. You're going to bend this around, push it in. And once it's in, you're going to notice that your little spring tabs are pretty much even. And then the little spring will come down and kind of sit right on top of the caliper itself. And we're going to do the same on the bottom. You need to kind of wiggle that up and down, make sure that's locked in. And if you push in, you can actually see that spring doing its job. And then just kind of push that up. Now you have both springs installed. Now on our caliper right here, we have the plug covering up that port. Go ahead and pull this out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to bring our caliper over here, and we need to loosen and remove this bolt off of our line. And we're going to be installing our new bolt here, our new banjo bolt. Now it has a copper washer on the base, or right at the head of the bolt here. And when this goes through the other side, you're going to install a second washer right on the other side of the hard line here, so it's going to sandwich it. So you want to make sure you have these washers ready to go. Now we do have a catch can underneath. We are going to lose some brake fluid from here. It's going to come out of the line as well as our caliper. We're going to use our 14mm socket to loosen and remove this. And we want to go ahead and pull this off. And we want to get it away from our brake pads. We don't want to have brake fluid leaking on those pads. And loosen that. Go ahead and remove that bolt. Go ahead and take your bolt with the washer, slip that through, put it on the other washer, and go ahead and line that up and get that started. Once you have that started several threads, grab your tool and go ahead and snug this down. Now we're just going to snug that for now. It does have a torque specification. Let's go ahead and spray that down with some solvent to clean up any of that fluid. Let's torque down the caliper to knuckle bolts to 122 foot-pounds. On the top one, we had to use an extension to get past that flex hose. Torque down our caliper to bracket bolts to 55 foot-pounds. Torque down the banjo bolt to 35 foot-pounds. Now at this point here, go ahead and remove the rubber cap off of your bleeder screw. And you can use a 10mm wrench. I'll prefer to use the box end here. I'm going to go ahead and loosen this. Now what we're doing is we're performing a gravity bleed here, and we're allowing the brake fluid to come down, fill up the piston side here, and then come up and burp out any air that's in the line. This could take a couple moments for the air to burp out. You don't have to remove this completely, you just want to make sure that that's loose. And at this point here, we have fluid coming out, and we're just watching for the air bubbles. Now at this point here, we're not seeing any more air bubbles coming out. We can go ahead and close this up. Snug that down gently. Use some spray solvent to clean up any of the residual brake fluid. Now we didn't really lose too much fluid at all, but you do want to go ahead and just double check the fluid on your master cylinder. Top it off as necessary. I'm going to pop our cap back on the bleeder screw. Now if you find that you pump up the brake pedal and it's still soft and spongy, you want to go ahead and continue to the brake bleeding process for this vehicle. Grab your wheel, line it up onto the studs. Let's go ahead and get our lug nuts started. And once we get all these started, we'll go ahead and snug them down. When doing this here, it's best if you do it in a star pattern or crisscross pattern. Now we can go ahead and torque our wheel. Let's go ahead and torque down our lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds. Preferably, you want to go ahead and do this in a crisscross pattern. And you're all set. With the hood open, go ahead and locate your master reservoir right here. We want to start by cleaning the top of this here, get rid of all the debris and dirt around here. Now we do have a drip mat here just to protect the other components. Give that a spray and wipe this down. We want to prevent any dirt and debris to falling down inside that reservoir. Now, two things we have here. We have an evacuation tool here. This is going to be used to suck the fluid out. You can sometimes use a turkey baster, but on this particular model, the port to gain access to the fluid is very small, so that may not work. You're gonna need something with a smaller tube. We also have a container on the side to put that fluid when we remove this. Move that cap, set it aside. Try and feed this down as far as we can. And the goal here is just to remove as much as you can. You may not get it all. Now, when we got our vehicle in here, it was already low on brake fluid. It's normally filled up almost to the top there. So we also recommended to be wearing safety glasses when you're doing a job like this. Now, once you evacuated as much fluid as you can, we're gonna go ahead and remove our container here and get that out of the way. Now, on your master reservoir here, there's going to be some sort of marking where it says max and a minimum. So go ahead and top off the reservoir to the max line with some fresh fluid. On this particular vehicle, it actually states here to use your DOT4. Here it is. Go ahead and grab that cap and secure it. With the vehicle raised and we have our wheels off here, we're going to start our brake bleeding process at the right rear wheel. Now, this procedure is going to start at the right rear wheel, then you're going to go over to the left rear, continue over to the right front, and then we're going to end with the left front. Now, right here on our caliper, we have a rubber cap covering our bleeder screw. Yours may or may not have this. It is not critical to the operation, but you want to go ahead and remove that cap if you do have it. Now, inside of our car, we have a person that's going to go ahead and pump up our brakes and help us with this procedure, and we'll walk you through that as we go. We're going to go ahead and use our 11mm wrench, and we just want to go ahead and crack this free just a little bit. Make sure we can loosen this. And there it is. We can move that. And we're going to put our reservoir on here. And this is going to be used to capture our fluid as we start that brake bleeding process. Now, when we're ready, we're going to have that person inside the vehicle pump up their brake pedal about 3 pushes, and they're going to hold pressure on that. I'm going to crack open this line here and let that fluid push through. Once that pedal inside the vehicle goes to the floor, that person is going to let me know that it's at the floor. They're going to hold that pressure. I'm going to tighten this. Then they're going to release, and we're going to continue to do this process 2 to 3 times, or as many times as it takes to get rid of any of the dirty fluid, as well as the air bubbles in the line. So let's go ahead and start that process. If you could go ahead and pump up the brakes. All right, they've informed me that they're holding that, so we're going to go ahead and loosen this. You see that fluid come up and out, and they're at the floor, so snug that down. And we're going to repeat this process until we get some good clean fluid and no air bubbles. Continue, please. Go ahead. And we'll do this one more time. All right, we'll snug this down. I'm going to go and bring my reservoir down so we can go ahead and open up this port here. Let that fluid drain down in there. Go ahead and give this a quick spray with some solvent. Clean up any of that residual fluid that might have dribbled out. Go ahead and put that rubber cap on. You want to go ahead and repeat this process for the left rear or the driver's side. And then we're going to meet underneath the hood and go ahead and top off the master cylinder reservoir. Now that we've bled the left rear wheel, let's go ahead and top off our reservoir. Go ahead and install your cover. Make sure it's secured. Now that we've topped off the reservoir, let's go ahead and continue with the right front wheel. With the wheel cranked out, it gives you the best access. Go ahead and locate your bleeder screw and pop off the rubber cap if you have it. Grab your 10mm and put your hose on here. And go ahead and pump up the brakes. Okay, pump it up. Go ahead. Now we have a solid stream of fluid coming out here. I'm using my pliers on this here just because the rubber port here is a little loose. Now after you're done there, go ahead and use your spray solvent. Clean up any residual brake fluid here. Install the rubber cap. Now you want to go ahead and repeat this process on the driver's side front. Once we do that driver's side front, we're going to go ahead and top off the master cylinder. Now that we've finished bleeding the brakes, let's go ahead and top off the reservoir. Go ahead and install your cover. Make sure it's secured. Now that we're done bleeding the brakes, you want to go ahead and hop into the vehicle, pump up the brake pedal. Now, for any reason, if that brake pedal should still feel mushy, you want to go ahead and repeat this process a second time. Once that pedal feels solid, go ahead and install your wheels and torque them down to 100 foot-pounds. And take it for a road test.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.